And joining me now, New York Times chief White House correspondent and MSNBC political analyst Peter Baker, and Harold Koh, who served nearly 4 years as the legal advisor at the State Department during the Obama administration and just last month argued before the International Court of Justice in The Hague against Russia on behalf of Ukraine. Harold Koh, it's good to talk to you again. I want to start with your reaction to what we heard from President Zelensky and our UN ambassador at the United Nations Security Council today.
Well, we've heard a characterization and a response, and journalists like yourself and Peter, who have been through many of these tragedies, know that different conflicts and chains of atrocities start to develop an interesting character. So in Bosnia, you had ethnic cleansing. In East Timor, you had scorched earth. What we have here is starting to emerge as a pattern of the deliberate use of war crimes as a tool of naked aggression. And we're seeing two kinds of patterns of activity, indiscriminate shelling of civilian targets that are clearly marked as civilian. And then secondly, brutal face-to-face torture and summary execution and dismemberment as a strategy, which is incredibly shocking. And I think what we're now seeing with Bucha and Mariupol are two incidents that will come to have the flavor of Srebrenica or Sarajevo, that kind of resonance. So President Zelensky called for war crimes investigations. He was not explicit about which institution he wants to do these. I think he'll take whichever one is able to move most quickly. Ambassador Thomas Greenfield, I think very correctly said, time to kick Russia off the UN Human Rights Council. It's 47 members. They should not be there voting and helping to set the agenda.
And in fact, that may happen this week because they can't act against Russia with its veto in the Security Council. So, Peter, they're going to go to the General Assembly where they got 141 votes in favor of condemning the invasion in the first place. Before I get to you, though, Peter, I want to bring on all of you NBC's chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, who shared this reporting when he was in Bucha just in the last hour. Let's watch.
This is the center of Bucha, or at least what's left of it. And Russian forces didn't just bomb and destroy this area. Residents say that Russian soldiers were going door to door, house to house, kicking down the doors, shooting the locks, and primarily searching for young men, they say. But that if anyone gave them any kind of resistance, argued with them, tried to talk back to them, they would quickly be shot. There were so many bodies that people here started to bury the bodies in their backyard. They also talk about snipers, how civilians would have to cross through this area to go from house to house, and that they would hear the whiz of sniper bullets going past their heads. Scenes of terrible destruction, also accounts of horrible, horrible brutality in this one suburb just on the outskirts of Kyiv.
And, my colleague Richard Engel has seen it all, but clearly what people are describing in Bucha, Peter and Harold, is really beyond anything, as Harold, you just pointed out. What it does remind me of is Srebrenica, of course, and we know how long it took to bring Milosevic to justice. In fact, indicted in '99 and convicted in 2003 after he was already dead. Peter, your experiences in Afghanistan at the beginning and the end of the war there, and of course in Moscow as bureau chief. It's almost impossible to imagine, though, how Ukraine in a protracted war, where U.S. military and the National Security Advisor yesterday saying that Russia is regrouping. They're going to go east, but also pin down the Ukrainian forces by continuing to attack the rest of Ukraine. How long can Ukraine withstand this kind of assault?
Yeah, it's an amazing set of photos and pictures and images you've just shown, and Richard Engel's report is so disturbing, of course. You remember, of course, Vladimir Putin said he was invading Ukraine in order to save it. But it's obviously a situation where in order to save the village, he's going to burn it down. He is using unmitigated, unrestrained force against civilian targets. They are practicing brutality against women and children as well as men. And it reminds me so much of what we saw in Chechnya, actually, in the beginning of Putin's reign. I was in Grozny, and what they did to Grozny is what they're doing to Ukraine right now on an even more massive scale. They had filtration camps there. They went house to house at times, pulling away young men, the way we're hearing reports now from Ukraine. This is a pattern we have seen throughout Putin's tenure, and he's now applying it on a larger scale in front of the world's eyes. People didn't get into Chechnya to really see it the way they are in Ukraine, which is closer to the rest of Europe and less under the Russian control. But what they're doing here is a continuation of a pattern of 2 decades of brutality against anybody who stands up to them. The difference here, of course, is that the Ukrainians, in theory, are the Russian Slavic brothers. They are the ones that they consider to be fraternal, relatives in effect. And they're doing this to the people that they say that they consider to be part of their own nation, and it's heartbreaking and tragic and horrific.